Hello there, everybody. My mic was muted. That's what happens when you get like 3 hours of sleep in the last 29 hours. But welcome to a brand new edition of On to the Next One. The matchmaking hats are back on following a pretty chaotic and memorable, and in some cases, history-making UFC 295 event last night at Madison Square Garden. We have two new champions. Their names are Alex Pereira and Tom Aspinall, the new interim heavyweight champion. We'll talk about what's next for them, their opponents, and some of the other tastemakers from the UFC's return to New York. I am Mike Heck, and as you can see, tonight, the co-host, the co-matchmaker, the Prince of Positivity, and my best friend, the incomparable Alexander Cayley, AK. How we doing? And look, I think your gymnastic scale prediction or threshold, if you will, was an 8.8. I have a feeling this might have surpassed that.
It can't technically. That's not how gymnastics works, Mike. It just means it was an 8. It just means it was an 8.8 out of 8.8. It nailed it. It nailed it. Yeah, it was a really good card. It was a really good card. I should always remind people, I don't define, the quality of a card by the number of finishes. You could possibly have, multiple great like decisions and stuff like that. But this was a case where you had all these great finishes on the main card, and it was with quality matchmaking. It wasn't like we're getting first round knockouts, first round submissions just because someone's like a minus 800 favorite over whoever. These were good matchups, and you didn't feel robbed, with one of these finishes. It wasn't like, I wish I'd gotten 5 rounds of Aspinall Pavlovich. I wish I'd gotten 5 rounds of Andrade Dern. I mean, those would have been interesting in their own way, but the fact that we got like a definitive winner in all those fights, there'll be some controversy with the main event. I think we'll talk about that soon. But for the most part, a definitive winner in these fights is very appealing. So yeah, I understand people if they had this higher on paper and if they think this is one of the best cards of the year. Definitely one of the easiest to watch. Really brisk. It felt like we were done earlier than usual, talking about work-wise, like MMA fighting work-wise. I don't know if we actually were, right, Mike? I think they spaced the event apart, like the fights apart, that it still ended around the same time. But it just felt really easy to watch and really easy to process and everything. It was very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, there was like 10 minutes of fights, like 10 minutes of actual fighting on the main card. It was absolutely insane. So, yeah, I mean, because the press conference took forever, because everyone got 5,000 questions, it didn't seem like the card ended as early because we still had to wait for the press conference and do the post-fight show. I don't think we started the post-fight show till like 3:15 a.m. Eastern time. So, yeah, it was a typical pay-per-view night. Like we said, we have two new champions. We will start with the main event. So basically how this is going to work, we're going to go through the 5 main card fights. We will matchmake for all 4 of the title competitors, the main card winners outside of those fights, and then we'll have a wild card pick. And then at the very end, for about 10 or so minutes, we'll just go to the chat. We'll pull up your matchmaking suggestions, and we'll react to as many as we can until I have to check out of this hotel room and get ready to fly home to beautiful South Carolina. So, AK, Pereira does the damn thing, becomes a 2-division champion in the UFC, along with being a 2-division champion in Glory. He's going to be a Glory Hall of Famer. And just his 11th pro MMA fight, just a 7th UFC fight. The man has broken the rankings. He's broken the sport as we know it. He's broken how you emerge to such a level. Has done this faster than anybody else has done it. A lot of people are kind of questioning the stoppage, but when Jiri Prochazka himself doesn't question the stoppage, kind of takes some of the luster off of that idea. But second round finish for Pereira, gets the job done, calls out Israel Adesanya, which I thought was absolutely friggin' genius on his part. Does he get that fight? Dana White said, we're going to do Jamal Hill, but it's not like Jamal Hill suffered a sprained elbow. He ruptured his Achilles. He's going to be out for a while. I'll be shocked if he fights anytime before like International Fight Week. And even that might be a little bit optimistic. So with this new champion being crowned, do we wait for Jamal Hill? Do we do Izzy? Or do we do something else and just get Alex in there with somebody else and just keep this momentum going?
Well, clearly Pereira watches On to the Next One or other fine MMA fighting programs, because we have talked about the possibility of him winning the title and fighting Izzy. I think I brought up On to the Next One. I don't know if I made it an official pick. but it's certainly a possibility I've mentioned. And I felt like it was something that made sense for both parties. There was a lot of talk of them maybe doing an immediate rematch after their second MMA fight, right? And then it got shot down pretty quickly because Pereira was like, well, I'm probably moving up. And Izzy, was very much like, well, I won the most recent fight. I won it pretty definitively. I feel like this feud is over. He carried that over on Saturday night as well. People saw his tweets. He's just kind of like, it doesn't sound like he's enthusiastic to fight Alex Pereira anytime soon. Doesn't sound like he's enthusiastic to fight anyone soon. If he's being honest about wanting to take a break, he says 2027. I somehow doubt that. I mean, he has other interests in his life. It's possible. And we've seen fighters take long breaks where like they're gone for 2 or 3 years, and then we're suddenly like, wow, like this guy hasn't fought, like some big stars, right? Like this guy hasn't fought since whenever. So I strongly want to see him fight Izzy, but I'm also believing that Izzy is going to stand by his I want to take a break. If not for 3 years, I don't think, but maybe at least a year. It would surprise me if he didn't take at least a year off. He deserves it. He needs it. Just for physically, mentally, I think it'd be good for him to do that. And again, a light heavyweight title shot might be waiting for him anyway. Pereira's the best storyline, but if he comes back, bulks up, and he's like makes a real shot at 205, he could get a light heavyweight title shot anyway. So and if Pereira's still the champion, and you just lock that in. So I did go with Jamal Hill, even though Jamal could be gone just as long as Izzy, assuming Izzy comes back sooner than 2027. I tried to look up Achilles tendon rupture, a little web emptying. Like I saw like 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm like 4 to 6 months. Excuse me, not 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 months. He got injured in July. Theoretically, by end of first quarter 2024, he could be ready to compete again. But that's like best case scenario. That's assuming that he's got the best rehab possible, which is excuse me, guys. Which I imagine he does. He's also young. He's a fine, great athlete. Like he's in great shape. So I do think he could come back sooner rather than later if he wants to. The question is, should he feel like he needs to push himself back to get a shot at it? And I don't think he should necessarily have to do that. Should have to rush back. So that is my pick. It's a bit magic wandy, but I'm not married to either the Adesanya or the Jamal Hill pick. I'm going with Jamal Hill just because I feel like this is the unique. I'd like to see him beat the last guy to hold the belt before him. Talking about Alex Pereira. But other than that, I don't feel super strong about it. There's just not anyone else that has a strong case though that he can fight in the next 4 months. I feel like, unless Rakic beats Jan Blachowicz, I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't sure, so I'm going with Jamal Hill.
I'm going Jamal Hill as well, but I'm not ruling out this Izzy thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not ruling it out. I think we're gonna have to wait until January 20th to kind of figure this out. Because I know Izzy said he's going to take some time off. I think 27 was obviously a joke. But let's just say UFC 3, like if the UFC does the double bite of the apple and they do UFC 300 without Conor, so they could put Conor on another card and get like 2 big buy rates, Izzy versus Pereira 3 at 205 would be gigantic. However, if Dricus du Plessis beats Sean Strickland at UFC 297, I feel like you have to do DDP Izzy. Like you've already had the chance to do it and you didn't do it. I feel like you kind of have to do it now. And I think Izzy would take that fight and be all about it. But if Sean Strickland ends up winning, is there going to be any sort of appetite for Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya too? No, especially with Hamzat Chimaev out there. So I think they're just going to have to wait for Jamal Hill unless the UFC headlines a show in Brazil or something, or somewhere close to Danbury, Connecticut, and they need Pereira to headline. Then maybe you just throw in Johnny Walker just for a new opponent and have some fun just to keep him active. But yeah, Jamal Hill's one of the most intriguing fights of 2024 now with Alex Pereira. So I'm with you. It's not a friends forever moment because it's really a 2-horse race here.
Yeah, and this fight, we said a lot of our lead up to this event, the chatter was, will this event help to bring some stability to 2 divisions? And we'll talk about heavyweight in a minute. And I think to the most stable matchup we want is Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira. It feels like it brings some sort of bounce back, just because again Jamal did win the title win a title. It wasn't lineal or anything, but won a title from Glover. He didn't get a chance to defend it. It's a really interesting matchup with Alex Pereira. So that's what we hope will happen. But gosh, it still feels like we have some chaos ahead of us. If Izzy does come back, if Izzy beats Pereira, Then Sean Strickland suddenly has to be thinking like, hey, maybe I go up to 205, go after. And then suddenly we're just in chaos all over again. So hopefully it is just Jamal Hill and we get a winner in that fight. And light heavyweight can actually just have normal title defenses and contenders. But I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can guarantee that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. This division remains very chaotic, at least for the time being. So we shall see how it plays out. Now for Jiri Prochazka, tough fight for the comeback. He'd been out for a while. He was doing a lot of Jiri things. It was such an intense fight. The stare down beforehand might have been the best I've ever seen without actual pushing and shoving and needing 18,000 security guards in the octagon. But Yuri's just one of those dudes that you could just match him up with anybody and you're just going to watch. And with this division being so weird and with Jamal Hill sort of lingering, I kind of feel like Jiri will take not like a huge break, but I feel like they're going to rebook I don't know. It's kind of like a 3-man tournament, maybe a 4-man, depending on what happens with Rakic and Pavlovich. But we got Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. I have a feeling they're just going to run that one back since the first one ended in such a weird way. I'm going to throw Jiri in there at the winner of that fight. I mean, but it really doesn't matter. Jiri versus anybody at 205 absolutely rules. But let's just kind of keep Jiri in an interesting spot because even if he fights Ankalaev or Johnny Walker and he wins, if they just rebook this Pereira fight again and just ran it back, like who's going to complain about that? With the stoppage and the questions about it, which I honestly didn't have a huge issue with the stoppage. A lot of people did. But at least you have something here. And this could be like the beginning of just a really fun, long-term rivalry between just two super interesting martial artists with personalities that don't involve a lot of trash talk. This would just be kind of crazy. So, yeah, give me Jiri versus the Ankalaev. Johnny Walker 2 winner, magic wanding. That fight is not made, but I have a feeling they're going to remake it, and then we'll go from there. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the first thing that came to my mind was, will they do Pereira Prochazka 2, like just run it back? Because there were so many people complaining about the stoppage, which, fair, it's an early stoppage. As I always say, not all early stoppages are bad stoppages. It doesn't mean the same thing. But I get why people are upset. They want to see it continue. I said it myself on Twitter. I would have liked to see it continue a little bit. But replays, I think, actually vindicated Mark Goddard a lot. I think you could see how out of it Jiri was, even if just for a moment. I do think falling back kind of woke him up a little bit. It's so tough because so many of these knockdowns and near finishes, it kind of depends where they happen. Because if this hadn't been against the fence, if Pereira catches him with that shot like close to the middle of the cage, middle of the octagon, and he's not, and he's able to sort of just circle out, that shot probably makes Jiri fall flat in his face. Like that sort of shot, like that wasn't really, like it was kind of a takedown attempt, but he also kind of just fell into Alex Pereira. If Alex Pereira isn't there, he just kind of falls in his face, and it looks way worse. But because they're against the cage, he falls against Alex Pereira. They kind of fall back against the cage, and he gets a second to gather himself, and then he just kind of pushed back. I'm okay with the stoppage. I just don't know if it was going in. And he ate a bunch of those elbows to the head while he was sort of holding on to Pereira. So I'm okay with the stoppage. I also understand people being upset. I understand people want to see them run it back. And that is such a logical option because, as we kind of just said with the Pereira pick, what light heavyweights are ready to get up there? So, yeah, there's a few people in the mix, but also those fights have to shake out. Walker Ankalaev when that gets rebooked. And I went with similar vein. Like I went with the Blachowicz Rakic winner, the rematch winner. We just saw that announced for 297. And I picked that one because that fight feels like it has to have some stakes for the winner. And the winner's not getting a title shot, I don't think. So the next best thing, I think, is getting the guy who's somewhat still the number one contender. So I went with the Prochazka versus Blachowicz and Rakic 2 winner.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rakic could sneak in there because it's at least a fresh matchup.
Yeah, he's fresh.
But yeah, weird division. That's where we're at right now. Speaking of weird divisions, heavyweight gets a little more interesting. Tom Aspinall becomes the interim heavyweight champion, needed just over a minute to knock out Sergey Pavlovich. That was absolutely insane. And Tom Aspinall gets a big moment, got the attention of John Jones, at least got a tweet out of John congratulating him for the victory, which if Sergey Pavlovich got a knockout, I'm not really sure if he would have gotten that, but there's a lot of theories behind this. Who is he setting up another fight? No, I think this is John just being like, hey, you might have this quote unquote interim title, but you know who the real big dog is here in this fight. It's me. I'm freaking John Jones. So Aspinall's in an interesting spot, AK, because we have Cyril Gane, who's been sort of in this weird place since beating Sergey Spivak. A lot of people kind of wanted him to make a move and make a bold statement, and he was just like, nah, I ain't fighting anybody unless it's for the belt. Cyril obviously tweeted at Aspinall. You have Jailton Almeida. You have all these other guys. You have John and Stipe potentially going to be fighting. So it's going to be a mess for a little while. So what happens to Tom Aspinall? Is he going to defend this interim title before John Jones and Stipe do the damn thing? What's going to happen here? Who is Tom going to fight again, if you had to guess?
Yeah, I think he has to defend it. All the credit in the world to him for trying to speak the John Jones fight into existence, and really mostly doing it upon the insistence of the media. We know he wants it, but it was brought up a lot. If anyone watched the pre-fight, if anyone watched the post-fight, a lot of it is the media bringing up John Jones over and over again, as we should, as you know, that is our job. So, and Tom Aspinall played along beautifully, saying, this is my dream fight. You take that fight to Manchester, you take that fight to London, Wembley Stadium. You really got yourself a stew going. So I wanted to crystal ball that pick. Sorry, not crystal ball, excuse me. Magic wand that pick so badly, Mike, but it's not realistic. I think Jones and Stipe are so locked in to fighting each other. And unless the UFC, again, writes a fat check in addition to what John's already getting paid to take this fight, I don't think he's that interested, and it would have to be a lot because he's made a good amount of money in MMA. He's made a good amount of money in MMA. Money is not his main concern. It's every man has a price, but that price would have to be really high to tell him, hey, go to London or go to Manchester to fight Tom Aspinall. It's interesting to him, but it's nowhere near as interesting as the Stipe fight. He wants that fight in his resume. He loves the idea of knocking off the heavyweight goat. So couldn't go there. Had to go with the guy that Aspinall kind of shot down. He wanted to fight him before. And then he's like, well, I'm the champ now. This guy should come after me. So I think they have to book him and Cyril Gane. It's really the only option left for Tom's next title defense, which I assume will be in England. Even if it's a big fight in Las Vegas, I think Cyril Gane makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, boring answer. He should fight. I want to see the John Jones fight. I hope it happens down the road, but I can't imagine a world where it's next for Tom Aspinall. So, Gane it is.
So Jed had a suggestion on the post-fight show. I don't know if you heard this, but Jed said we all as an MMA community should all have the same narrative that John is scared of Tom Aspinall. Like everybody, fans, media, the fighters, everybody needs to come together and be like, John, you don't want to fight Tom Aspinall because you're scared. And then maybe like John's ego will take over if we all kind of throw that narrative at him and it's unanimous. I kid, but that's what Jed said. And I thought that was like maybe the take of the year right there.
If we ever needed a Dana, I don't know. I guess he doesn't want to fight this. I guess he's scared. If we ever needed one of those, Dana, last night was the night. Last night was the night to go. But no, he was so agreeable with Jones Miocic. Like I think he very calmly answered a question about it. He was like, nope, that's the fight they want. That's the fight they want. That's the fight they're gonna get. They both want it. I'm like, when has what the fighters want ever been this important to you, Dana? But he also sees dollar signs in the matchup, so whatever. But I wish he had called John scared. That would have just been hilarious.
Would have been hilarious. He's going to fight. Tom Aspinall's going to fight Cyril Gane. It's not going to happen in Paris. It's going to happen in either London or Manchester, somewhere in the UK. It's going to be a main event fight. Tom's going to look like a star because if he's going to pique John's interest at all, that needs to happen. And Tom needs to win and he needs to come out looking like an absolute superstar. And you're not going to be able to do that anywhere else besides London or Manchester. Manchester would be the better spot because that's closer to home. We could do a stadium show or something in that area and have Tom in the main event in Lyon or something like that. Would be awesome for him. But yeah, it's him and Gane actually in a weird way played this well, which I haven't said at all. Him just kind of sitting down and be like, nah, I ain't doing anything. So that is Tom Aspinall.
Can I throw out a question?
Please.
Yeah, can I throw out a question? This is for a later show, guys. We can answer in the people can answer in the comments as well since we're doing this live. But I will read out any interesting answers. Kaposa, the great Kaposa, I think phrased it best. He tweeted earlier, "I'm dying to know who needs capital letters to see Jones Stipe at this point. I understand the legacy angle, but who are these people that are demanding it? It's not 2018. So, guys, if you are out there." And you are you want Jones Stipe for some reason, please let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at Alexander K. Lee. DM me or at me. I don't care. I am curious who this fight is for at this point, and I will read some of the best answers on to the next one next week, I guess.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's for John. It's for Stipe.
It's
for Dana White. It's for the UFC because of the business that fight will do. Because you'll get a casual. But that's really it. Like, we were all of us that were in this room right now who are watching this program live or will be listening after. Like, what we got last night, that's what we demanded. That's what we wanted. Last night was our card. It wasn't for the casuals. It was for us. And it delivered in spades. And now we have to go to Sergei Pavlovich, who had just this incredible run, 6-fight win streak, all first-round finishes. Seemed like he just had this death touch and he couldn't lose. And then Tom Aspinall just kind of melts him and gets him right out of there. So a lot of people wondering where Alexander Volkov fits in all of this. And I think Pavlovich-Volkov would be a crazy-ass fight. I think that's a good one. I think that's a good one. Could headline at the Apex if needed. If they do a little traveling internationally, could do that there. But yeah, that's kind of what I went with. I think Volkov sort of deserves a big fight, and this would be a big fight.
Yeah, my best friend. I think that's one people had looked at when Pavlovich was coming up as well. I don't mind it. I think it's good. Volkov's, again, somehow just keeps finding ways to he'll take a big loss and come back, win 2 fights, 3 fights, and find himself against one of these top names. I went a different direction. I kind of did what you did with the Ankalaev Walker pick. I did a little crystal balling here. I hope that they just rebook Jailton Almeida, Curtis Blades. That's the fight we want to see after Almeida's divisive win over Derek Lewis. Might be a nice way to put it. Some people would say just a boring as hell win. I'll go with divisive since I didn't think it was the worst thing ever. But that fight I think needs to happen. And soon, assuming if Curtis's injury isn't too severe, hopefully we see that again, not January, but February, March, maybe April, the latest, fingers crossed. And then Pavlovich will have taken some time by then to recover from this devastating loss and take the winner of that fight. Because I think Jailton for sure needs one more test. Even if he beats Blades, I don't know if that's gets him a title shot right away, especially with the whole Jones-Stipe situation, all this other blah, 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 blah stuff. So, yeah, I could see him fighting one of those guys.
Yeah, everyone wants him to get out of the Apex. I got news for you guys. They ain't getting out of the Apex. They ain't getting out of it. We won't get Apex shows like probably as much as we got this year, but we're still going to get them. Like, we're going to be in the Apex at least once a month.
I saw one of the MMA fighting comments like, we should write a petition. The fans should write a petition to take them out of the Apex. And I'm like, yeah, that'll stop. Yeah, that's a strongly worded letter is going to make the UFC leave the stop holding shows the Apex. Good, that's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, if we get 100 signatures, maybe they'll listen to us. Yeah,
Dana's really gonna be like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Oh man, let's go to the y'all must have forgot moment of UFC 295. Jessica Andrade, who started the year just drubbing up Lauren Murphy, and then 3 straight losses to very, very good opponents. And gets this fight with Mackenzie Dern. And during the People's Pre-Fight Show yesterday, heading into the event, someone asked who on the main card had the most to lose. And obviously with the 4 title combatants, you can make a case for either of them. But I feel like a loss doesn't really knock Sergei Pavlovich out of title contention altogether. Doesn't knock Jiri Prochazka out of title contention altogether. He never really technically lost the belt until last night. And I thought it was Mackenzie Dern. I thought Mackenzie Dern had the most to lose on this card because if she was ever going to get a title shot or at least sniff it anytime soon, like she needed to beat Jessica Andrade. She's in a really good spot to do it. This is probably her 3rd chance to get to at least a number 1 contender fight. And she's fallen through the other 2 times, falls through again last night. Andrade snaps a 3-fight skid. She's back on track. Dern's going to be interesting to go, but obviously this is about Jessica Andrade after that dominant performance and finish. We know what Jessica Andrade does, AK. She gets offers. She says yes. She doesn't think about it. And she takes tough fights against tough dames. And she does it in multiple divisions. So is she going to stay at strawweight, AK? The answer is no. She's going to go up to 125. And she's going to fight Macy Barber.
Oh, yeah. I like it. Macy, was she tied to a fight recently? I can't remember. Not a fight coming up, but what was her most recent? Did she have to bow out of something? What's up with Macy? Where's she been?
She beat the hell out of Amanda Hebos.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
That was how long
ago? It was
June. June. Okay. Oh wow, that's yeah, it's a surprise. In my mind, I was like, I thought she had booked another fight already. That's been quite some time since then. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you're Macy Barber, you should. Well, I should say you should want that. Nobody should want that fight. Nobody should ever want to fight Jessica Andrade coming off a performance like this. I think people smelled blood, during her sort of recent slump. Including Mackenzie Dern. I'm sure Mackenzie Dern was, very cautious to want to take a matchup like this. But, seeing her on a 3-fight losing streak, you could try, her team could be like, talk herself into this opportunity. And it's a big one, right? This is a former UFC heavyweight, UFC strawweight champion, flyweight title contender. If Mackenzie Dern had won, finally, this would have been that moment. Finally, Mackenzie Dern would have gotten over the hump. Now I find myself asking all these will Mackenzie Dern ever become a true contender questions again. Anyway, it's just exhausting. But I'm keeping Jessica Andrade at 115. Mike, I thought there was actually a couple of compelling matchups, and I'd like to see her fight Marina Rodriguez. Just another top 10 person, and stay busy and keep those checks coming in. We'll see if she can work her way to another title shot somehow.
I mean, we know I'm going with Macy Barber for one reason and one reason only, because that's not the correct answer. What you said is not the correct answer. What the suggestions in the comments are putting out there, not the correct answer. There is only one correct answer. And I've been saying this anytime both of these women have fought for the last 2 years. And now if I just say somebody else, maybe they'll actually make this fight, because it is truly the only fight to make. It is Jessica Andrade versus Rose Namajunas 3. That is the fight. You could do it at 15. You could do it at 25. That's it. That's the fight. It's the fight. But I'm trying to reverse the negative juju here. But yeah, good win for Andrade. Back on track. It's been a tough year for her, and tough year for Dern as well.
Man, when you saw Dern couldn't get that, she tried one takedown early on, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, and when you saw that wasn't happening, you were like, oh, this ain't good. This is oh boy. I had a friend who had Dern as his last leg on a parlay, and I think you're pretty good. I was like, Jessica Andrade has had some issues with bigger grapplers, and I'm like, Dern kind of fits that profile. Very athletic, bigger, definitely bigger than Jessica Andrade, strong grappler. Then you see that first takedown get stuffed, and you're just like, oh, oh man.
I knew with 20 seconds left in the first round, this was not going to go well. Dern was moving around, throwing the jab. I'm like, oh, this is kind of good. And then Andrade started landing those leg kicks, and you could tell Dern's leg was battered, and she was super uncomfortable on the feet at that point. And then she shot for that sort of last takedown, and Andrade stuffed it. And you just saw her she just backpedaled until she got dropped at the end of the first round. And then Andrade just kind of poured it on. When she smells blood, man, she's super tough. But great win for Andrade, and she's got a million options. She's actually very fun to matchmake on this show.
Hall of Famer. She's so good.
Let's go to the man that everybody wants to hear about right now, Benoit Saint-Denis. I don't even know that knockout was insane against Matt Frevola. It looked like we were going to get the chaos, and then he just kicked Matt Frevola halfway across the octagon. He landed one kick. Frevola flew in the air halfway across the octagon, got cut immediately, and Benoit Saint-Denis remains undefeated in the UFC at 155. He does have the loss to Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. It was on short notice. I believe it was less than a week's notice at 170. But man, lightweight Benoit Saint-Denis is going to be a ranked dude. He's going to be a problem. Calls out Justin Gaethje, calls out Dustin Poirier, calls out everybody at 155, planting some seeds. I don't think he's going to get either of those options, AK, but there are a lot of good ones for Benoit Saint-Denis. I kind of feel like he's going to be a tough guy to matchmake for if you're Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard, because I don't know how many of these big name lightweights are going to be like, yeah, let's go fight that dude. That sounds like a lot of fun. So what are we doing for BSD here, AK?
I'm going to borrow an idea from my aforementioned pal who got screwed by that Mackenzie Dern leg on the parlay. I'll call him Stevie J for now. I'll let him keep his anonymity for the most part. Stevie J. That's not what we call him, but Stevie J is what we will go with. He suggested Bobby Green, Dan Hooker winner. They're fighting UFC Austin December 2nd. Banger of a fight. Now, Saint-Denis has definitely left over both of them in the rankings. Don't get me wrong. This is kind of a fight back, which is why I didn't love it. But I looked at the guys ahead of him, ahead of Saint-Denis in the rankings, and man, a lot of these guys he's just not going to get. Fiziev would be a dream fight, but he's injured. We just don't know when he's coming back. He's not getting the Sarukyan Dariush winner. Michael Chandler's going to wait for Conor McGregor until he's an old, and he's either going to wait for Conor McGregor or he's just never going to fight again, apparently. So that fight's not going to happen. And I do love Hanata Moicano. I think I just said I want to see Moicano fight Gamrot. And Gamrot's also a good option. But I guess the only reason I didn't go with them is I did pick them in a previous Otno to fight each other. So I'm going to let that pick survive for now, even though it seems like Benoit Saint-Denis might slide in there and take on one of them. I'm not sure how you worked it out, Mike.
Yeah, if I'm Money Moicano, I don't think fighting Benoit Saint-Denis kind of goes into the whole Money Moicano persona. This is Money Moicano is a prize fighter, and this is not a prize fighty kind of a fight. So I think, Moicano, that'd be a sick fight, but I kind of feel like Moicano is like, maybe I'll wait and see what other options come my way. I'm not suggesting he's scared or anything like that, but for him, there's other options at 55 that get him over. So again, it's not about this pick right now for Otno. It's about the next one. And you're right. I don't think there's any other option right now. I think the Dan Hooker, Bobby Green winner is the perfect pick. Neither of those guys are going to say no. Both those guys are just like, I don't care who it is. Just put my name on the contract and I'll sign it. But I'm going to plant seeds for Benoit Saint-Denis' next fight. His second, possibly third fight of 2024, AK.
Whoa.
Madison Square Garden, November of 2024. Benoit Saint-Denis is going to fight Rafael Fiziev. It is going to happen at Madison Square Garden, November 2024. It's not going to happen next, but both those guys, I think, I don't know if Fiziev gets a fight in there beforehand after the injury he sustained. I'm going to say Fiziev's return will be at Madison Square Garden, and he's going to fight Benoit Saint-Denis after what Benoit Saint-Denis begins his 2024 campaign doing. So there you go.
Wow,
there's
a year away. A year
yes,
away.
This is like Rock Cena, baby. We're building this up for a year.
You're calling the card. You're calling the city. You're calling the matchup. So much can happen, my best. You know what? You're on the books. It'll be a hell of an Otno point if you get this one, and it'd be an amazing fight for Madison Square Garden. So certainly cannot complain about it.
A lot of Saint-Denis Gamrot suggestions. I don't think Gamrot's got to take that fight, especially coming off a win over Fiziev. If Charles Oliveira loses to Islam Makhachev, like I definitely feel like that's a fight the UFC could make for Mateusz Gamrot and throw him in there with Charles Oliveira. So, I mean, there's lots of options right now. We'll see what happens. I think everybody wants to see Benoit Saint-Denis. I think in terms of stock risers, I think BSD is probably the winner of that contest from where he was heading in to where he is now. I think he made a lot of fancy potential believers into full-on believers, and that was just a violent performance. Let's go to Diego Lopes, AK. Possibly the rookie of the year in 2023. What a year this man has had. Elvis Brenner's going to have something to say about it come award season, but makes quick work of Pat Sabatini, gets him out of there in the first round. The man with the hair, getting over like Rover. I thought I even said on the watch party heading in, I'm like, I think this is a brilliant piece of matchmaking right now. I think the UFC matchmakers know something. They know Pat's a tough guy, but they feel like Diego Lopes, they got something with him. That's why he's in that spot. They're seeing he's getting over. Let's try to build him up a little bit. And boy, they nailed it with this one. Lopez goes in there and gets a big finish. I saw a lot of suggestions for just give him a top 15 guy, and I'm not really opposed to that. I think he called out Bryce Mitchell, and that would be something to behold, but I don't think Bryce Mitchell takes that fight right now. So I landed with a guy who is a vet. He's a tough fighter, is a tough out for pretty much anybody, but at least he's a name that at least feels like a step up that some mid-level fans in terms of casual and hardcore appeal. I think everybody in that spot sort of knows who this guy is. I went Diego Lopes versus Alexander Hernandez, AK. 145 pounds. A guy who's probably like a top 30, 45er. It's a nice just name building sort of step. You know what I mean? And then if he goes and beats a guy like Hernandez, who has a win over guys like Dariush, so forth and so on, then we can try to get him into there to the top 15. So I don't think we need to rush him too quickly, but I think Hernandez is like, in terms of name value, is a step up from Sabatini. Maybe not from a skill set perspective, but I think at least from name value, that's a good next step for him.
Yeah, they need to handle Lopez the right way, because they have a guy who's a legitimate, could be a name for them. It reminds you a little bit of the path run with Diego Lopez, and he's had a great rookie year. We've talked about it a lot. The path we've talked about him, rookie year in the UFC, is similar. His path is similar to Arman Sarukian in a way, in that he came in on short notice, took this super tough fight, really impressed in that fight, didn't win, but then you see someone that you can sort of bounce back and give them good matchups to showcase them. They're very different as far as experience goes. Diego Lopez had a ton of experience coming to the UFC. Sarukian had some, but was still generally considered a prospect, like an actual MMA prospect. Again, while Lopez might be a UFC prospect, but is in the thick of his career. He's in the prime of his career. You are seeing the sort of the best version of Diego Lopez right now. He's going to get incrementally better, but this is what you get. So that matchup makes a lot of sense, Mike. Because I'm not shooting him up the rankings. He's not like in my top 25 of featherweights right now. It's just such a deep division. There's some name, if people want to throw him in there, I get it, but I have him behind guys like Jack Shore, some veteran guys, Daniel Pineda, Damon Jackson, Hakeem Dawodu. You can make a case to put him above all those guys. Go ahead. I'm not there yet. So my pick is really boring, but I want to give him someone who is ahead of him just because he's beaten some guys with bigger names, with bigger names, I'd say. So I'll go with Muhammad Naimov. He scored a win recently. He's 2-0, I think, now in the UFC. So UFC experience is similar. Again, give me one more win from Lopez before I start going really crazy and looking at like top 20 guys. But I think after Saturday's performance, UFC, great job putting him as the main card opener. I know people want to see big things right away. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets it. I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah. As Jed likes to say, there's no wrong way to eat these Reese's, but give him Hernandez. Then I we go to the Dan Ige, Sadiq Youssef level, and then we go to like an Edson Barboza level, and then we just kind of go from there. But let's get one more in there before we start talking about some of those big names, because I really do feel like they have something with this guy, and let's just keep the fire burning. Just like the show, AK, let's go to the wild card round. We will select one fighter we have not match made for yet. We will match make for them right now. So go ahead and make your wild card pick. I'll make mine, and then I will claim an no point.
Oh my goodness. I'm wondering if we pick the same fighter, though maybe not, because I have previously said on multiple shows that this fighter is banned. But I was so enthused about Lupi Godinez's win over Tabitha Ricci. She looked really good. It wasn't like a blowout, but I thought it was a very convincing win. And we don't need to go in on Brian Miner's 30-27 Ricci scorecard any more than we all did on social media and probably on post show. I haven't listened to this post show yet. I assume it was mentioned. Brian Miner had himself a night. 30-27 Ricci, 10-8 round 2 for Sadikov and Borshchev, just madness. And what was the other one? Oh, he had Mackenzie Dern after round 1.
That might have been the most egregious card of all.
He doesn't know who these women are. That's my only, and I think he didn't know the Sadikov and Borshchev either. That's my only explanation, is that he thought Ricci was Godinez and Godinez Ricci. He thought Dern and Andrade, he got them mixed up. He got Borshchev and Sadikov mixed up. No, the Borshchev Sadikov one, sorry, that doesn't explain that. That's just, he just doesn't want to do 10-8s ever, I guess. 10-8s don't exist in his mind. I don't know. But the two women's fights, I'm convinced he doesn't know who's who. It is the Ricci one actually seems less egregious now than the 10-9 Dern. Oh, yeah, I have no idea. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Again, let's not dwell on Brian Miner. He had a really rough night. I don't want to see him judging a MMA card anywhere anytime soon. Lupi Godinez, we previously banned her because it's like impossible to predict when she's going to fight, but I want to see her in Toronto. This is selfish. I will be in Toronto. I'll be covering that event, UFC 297. Lupi, if you're not injured, make another quick turnaround for us and fight the winner of next week's Luana Pinheiro Amanda Ribas bout. So the other one I considered was, could she fight Jessica Andrade? I don't know, Mike, if you thought about that at all.
I did think about that.
Okay.
I ultimately went a different direction.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I don't have one wild card pick.
Ooh.
I have two, and they just happen to be from the same fight card. They're going to fight against one another. It is Lupi Godinez. No, she is not going to fight Jessica Andrade, but she's going to fight the woman Jessica Andrade finished. We're going to do Lupi Godinez versus Mackenzie Dern, AK.
Whoa.
That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do.
Whoa. That's not happening in Toronto.
No, I don't know. If take a break.
Did not come back into.
Look, here's what you need to do. Okay, when Alexa Grasso comes back, and you do Grasso Shevchenko 3, and I feel like that's what they're gonna do. You put Lupi on the same card, and you put Diego Lopez on the card as well. Like you just have to. This is the time. There's rumors about possibly going to Mexico City first quarter 2024. I don't know what the deal is at this point, but yeah, Lupi and Grasso should be on the same card. That's what we need. Lupi's got to be a little more picky now. You know, she's gonna be a top 10 fighter. So the stakes have changed a little bit for Lupi Godinez. I'm not saying take a year off, but I think Mackenzie would be back one of those first quarter pay-per-views. I think we could see that happening. So yeah, let's get Lupi Mackenzie Dern and let's see if she can get there. She's earned a shot at somebody like that.
Damn, yeah, it's possible. It's possible, and you're right. And the thing is, Mackenzie Dern, we always talk about is a really high level athlete. Like we always talk about athleticism being a cheat code. I think she's kind of underrated. As I don't know, maybe she's not underrated. People know, right? People know Mackenzie Dern's a plus athlete. Anyway, so yeah, if anyone can recover from something like that quickly and turn around, she can. I kind of just hope she doesn't. I want to see her take some time off. I want to see her. I know she lost, her gym. She talked about Ruka Gym a lot. I know it closed down, so hopefully she can settle in with another team that can really help her just shore up some of these weaknesses. Not to hate on her current team, whoever does that prepared her for this fight, but it whatever happened, it just wasn't. She just isn't where she needs to be to fight that level of competition. Speaking of Jessica Andrade, so Lupi would be a great litmus test, and hopefully before that, like I said, we get the best version of Mackenzie Dern, because I just didn't feel like we necessarily got that on Saturday with respect to Jessica Andrade.
And shout out to Brian Miner for giving me hope that I might have cashed a plus 140 Tabitha Ricci ticket, because I heard 327 Ricci. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna steal this one. Like it might happen. I might steal a plus 140 ticket here, and then I was like, all right.
Hold on, can I adjust our pal Garrett Clemens screaming in the comments?
Yes, I know.
Saying Ricci. Garrett, the second round wasn't a knockdown for Ricci. You should know that, right? There was a clash of heads. It was not scored a knockdown. You can go check UFCstats.com. It's not a knockdown. If you think the round was close enough that Ricci, I don't really think you could. I think Lupi pretty clearly won round 2, except for that clash of heads at the end that knocked her down. And the first round, if you want to talk about Ricci's knockdown, Lupi knocked her down earlier. So if you want to cancel out the knockdowns, again, Lupi did more in round 1, round 2, round 3. Maybe you give to Ricci, but that's about it. So I don't know. Maybe watch the fight again. Maybe I need to watch the fight again. I don't know, but it seemed pretty clear Lupi win to me.
Yeah, I feel like Lupi won, even as somebody who was holding a Ricci ticket, who would have been happy if Ricci got the decision. Yeah, because I didn't feel like I deserved that one. So, but I had a really good betting night. I did really well. I think it was up like almost 9 units overall. So I was pretty happy with how everything played out from that perspective. But it's nice I don't have to place another. I mean, look, my wagers are tiny. It's basically just for entertainment purposes. But yeah, it feels good when you come out with a nice bit of victory from that perspective. So we're going to go to you guys in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and claim an Otno point. As we saw last night, it was the first thing I thought of during the watch party. We got some more bouts announced for UFC 297, and this is a fight that I suggested. And after I actually saw it with my own eyes, I was like, yes, I got an Otno point. And then 2 seconds later, I was like, oh no, why did I do this? Why did I put this out into the universe? Because this could go really, really bad. Carlos Ulberg versus Dominic Reyes going down UFC 297. I'm on the board.
I knew it sounded familiar. I was like, because it raised my eyebrow when I saw it, but I was like, didn't soone I know and love make this pick? And sure enough, yeah, that's right. I still think that's like matchup wise, obviously a terrible fight for Dominic Reyes versus anyone with like knockout power. I get it. It's just people are just dreading it. It feels like the chin and the defensive instincts might just be gone. But if he beats Ulberg, and I feel like I've said this for the last 2 like Dominic Reyes fights, if he wins, it puts him right up there back in the rankings, back in the top 20. I don't know where people have him now. I'm sure he's fell precipitously.
Is he ranked in the UFC rankings?
No. That would shock me. I'll check now.
He's definitely not in our rankings.
He's definitely not in our rankings. I have him. Oh god, right. Light heavyweight sucks. I actually have him over certain people that he's beaten. I'm gonna check UFC.com real quick.
I think he might still be in there. I'm curious.
Light heavyweight is not good. It's not good.
It's very top heavy.
He is. You know what? I stand.
He's 13. He
is 13.
I knew it. I freaking.
And again,
knew it.
as crazy as that sounds to people, you just have to look at the other names. There's like Alonzo Menafield. He's above Alonzo Menafield and Dustin Jacoby, and you could probably put those guys above him. But I think with Dominic, it's tough because he has wins over notable names. They just feel so long ago now. He's lost 4 straight. So I don't think top 15 is absurd based on who he's beaten, but based on recent form, I mean, he's barely top 25, right? So I don't know. I don't disagree with the UFC. Yeah, it's rough to say this guy's a top 15 light heavyweight right now. But if he beats Ulberg, no arguing with it there.
It's good It's good matchmaking. Like, it could go really bad, and there's a world we could see Dominic Reyes unconscious in the octagon again, and that's just kind of a sad world to live in, considering most people thought he beat John Jones, and if he had won the title, what would his career look like right now? Like, everything has just gone just horribly wrong for him since the Jones fight in so many ways, career-wise. So, but I think at this point, after where he was at, if you can't beat Carlos Ulberg, I don't know how much more he can do here, honestly. But
at least a competitive loss, right? Like, what if like a fight of the night? If he gives us like a fight of the night, then I'm like, Dominic. I mean, he'll probably still, depending where he is contract wise. Like, let's say it was the last fight of his contract. I don't know what his contract status is. They probably don't bring him back if he loses, even if it's a fight of the night performance. But that doesn't mean he can't have, continue his MMA career elsewhere. So,
yeah. I mean, we have dwindling options now.
Seriously.
Who knows what's going on with Bellator? They are just a friggin' mess right now. Curious if the sale actually goes through. It's gonna be an interesting couple of months for the PFL Bellator stuff.
For sure.
All right. So for the next 12 to 15 minutes, it's all you guys. So throw your matchmaking suggestions. Please keep it to fighters who competed last night, and we'll put them up on the screen. Sometimes we just get random matchmaking suggestions, but let's not do that.
Bring it on. They're coming in. They're coming in fast and furious, yes. Mike.
Diego Lopez, Billy Q, Matt Frevola, Elvis Brenner, Rebecki versus Terrence McKinney. Jeez, I love the Rebecki Terrence McKinney idea. Jiri versus Anthony Smith. What do you think about Jiri versus Anthony Smith? What do you think about Pereira versus Anthony Smith? Now, trust me, because I've been continue to say a bunch of crap about each other.
I've been reading MMAfighting.com. I've seen the back and forth, yeah.
And let me just say, because everyone's going to be like, oh, you're an idiot. Why would you ever say that? This would just be listen, we need to keep Pereira going right now. We need to keep him busy. Like, kind of a thing. Like, he's got to fight on this pay-per-view. Like, we need something here. Anthony Smith, there's at least headliney things that they can go to with both guys saying things to one another. Look, we live in a world where Michael Bisping defended the middleweight title against Dan Henderson. So this is not out of the realm of possibility. It'd be Anthony Smith last title shot. People like Anthony Smith. It would make no sense from a meritocratic perspective, but the UFC makes plenty of fights of that nature. So could Anthony Smith be in the mix for either of these two guys?
For Jiri, yeah. For Jiri, I think Jiri makes a ton of sense. And Anthony Smith has been with the UFC long enough. He can talk his way into, and he's coming off a win, right? So he can talk. He can angle for one of those big fights. If you're Jiri, Anthony Smith's a guy with a name. He's fought for the UFC title. He's not nobody. He's been in the top 15 for some time. So Jiri very likely actually like that suggestion. I'm a little embarrassed. I didn't even consider it. I like that suggestion a lot. I don't love Alex Pineda and Anthony Smith. The chatter is great. I just don't love that happening.
Yeah, it's a stay busy fight. That's literally what it would be.
Sure.
If Jamal Hill's not going to be out fighting till August, let Pereira fight Anthony Smith, and then he can go fight Jamal Hill. Speaking of Jamal Emmers versus Jose Mariscal, Mateusz Gamrot, Mateusz Rebecki versus Ladova Klein, like those. First time, long time. Welcome to the party, pal. Alex versus Hill, Aspinall versus Jones, Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez.
That's right.
BSD versus RDA, not going to happen. RDA is a welterweight. Yeah, he's not fighting at 55. I don't know why he's ranked at 55. It makes no sense to me. Lopez versus Caceres. I feel like Lopez versus Caceres is a popular pick.
I saw a few people mention that. I saw that popping up in the comments. It's not bad. I think it makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh.
What do you got?
Emmers versus, the one you just put on the screen. Emmers versus Brendan Loughnane. I guess the assumption that Loughnane is going to come over to the UFC at some point.
I don't know.
Finally. What a storyline that would be. If he were to come over, that would. I don't even want to say that'd be a great introductory fight, though. I guess that's how the UFC would treat him. They'd be like, "You got to prove yourself, kid. You got to prove yourself. You got to fight Jamal Emmers."
Josh Van versus Tyson Nam.
Just for it sounds nice. Rolls off the tongue really well.
Good hashtag
Van
right
Nam.
there.
Yeah, hashtag Van Nam.
I like this question, but maybe we'll do that at the end.
Okay.
The ranking of the MSG shows.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. I didn't think about it.
Rematch the last 2 fights of the night. Rebecki versus Jared Gordon. Don't know about that. Rebecki versus Drew Dober is the fight. Don't waste Rebecki's time with unranked guys. But no, the problem is like nobody. I think we need to build him up a little bit.
Yes.
Like he doesn't have a real impressive victory on the old resume right now.
Oh, shots fired. I mean, you're not wrong, but I'm saying you're firing shots. He has he feels like a guy that's going to be a player, but just not. I thought he was going to finish Nick Fiore in his debut. Did not manage to do it.
Because Nick's not a human being.
Yes, this is true. Louis Ratsibov got to finish there. That was nice. That kind of got him back on track. And then he fights a Roosevelt Roberts, who I feel like took this fight just to get his foot back into the UFC. Again, less than a week's notice. Not Rebecki's fault. Not his fault at all. He fights who he's booked against. He took care of. He did what he's supposed to do against someone like that. Took him out inside of a round. Totally dominated up until that point. But those 3 wins to me don't say like, okay, we have a contender for sure. 16 consecutive victories overall, like including pre-UFC fights. Amazing. It looks glossy. It looks great. He's in his prime. This guy's not a prospect. This is a guy who's in his prime right now. But I think he's not at the point yet where he's guaranteed to get a ranked guy. Unfortunately. So I like this suggestion, but it's not time yet.
I love the McKinney idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Let's see what else we got here. Rebecki versus Turner, tallest versus the shortest lightweight.
Little guy, little beast.
I love that. A lot of Lopez, Bruce Leroy's, Saint-Denis versus Money Moicano.
I think it's possible that Saint-Denis, Money Moicano, Gamrot, they're out there in some form or fashion.
This is a popular one I saw last night. Jalen Turner versus Benoit Saint-Denis, but I just don't know if Jalen Turner is going to be a lightweight anymore.
Right. I think last time match made for him at welterweight, but if he can find a way to still make it, I mean, Jalen Turner is still a player at 155 for sure.
Why is no one saying Alex should go up to heavyweight and fight Tom? Oh, please. Not now. No. We're trying. Like, I want 2024 to be the year. I want 2024 to be the year of stay in your own weight class and fight people in your division.
No, and it's not. He had trouble with Jan Blachowicz taking it. And Jan Blachowicz is a good wrestler. But imagine Jan Blachowicz plus 30 pounds. Alex Pereira would not have won that fight. He does not beat heavyweight Jan Blachowicz. And there's a lot of guys at heavyweight who can wrestle and who can take him down. He'd be competitive, but honestly, even a Sergey Spivak, I feel like would be a very tough matchup for Alex Pereira at heavyweight. It's a big size difference, guys. It's a big size difference from 205 to 265. Andrade
Hebas at either 115 or 125.
Yeah,
I guess it's a magic wand pick. We're assuming
it's true.
Hebas wins.
Sure. Yeah.
Thoughts on Benoit Saint-Denis versus Gregor Gillespie?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'm here to tell you, Greg Gillespie's not fighting Benoit Saint-Denis. That's not going to happen. Like, if the reason Gregor has not fought, at least from what he said, is he's not going to fight anybody that's ranked behind him. He wanted like a Tony Ferguson fight after the last one. He was offered main events against Arman Sarukian before Sarukian fought Gamrot. And I think he's happy just kind of like fishing and living the outdoorsman life until something comes his way that he wants to do. And I can assure you, I don't think Benoit Saint-Denis is that dude that's going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm ready to come back. I'm ready to make that money and fight this absolute killer. So I would love to see it. I'm just not hopeful that's what we see next.
Coming off the couch to fight Benoit Saint-Denis sounds insane to me. That is
stay on the lake.
That's how you get hurt.
Stay on the lake.
That's how you get hurt, dude.
What's next for Jared Gordon, AK?
I'm super happy for him. I said on the pre-fight show, I told people watch for that fight. That was my low-key banger because I thought Jared Gordon was due his New York moment. You know, these storylines in MMA typically are not that tidy. We see people get that hometown fight all the time, and it just doesn't work out. But this felt right. It felt like the right matchup. Mark Madsen all the props in the world to him for what he's done in his MMA career so far. But he got off to a late start. You know, he's almost 40. I think he'll be 40 next year. Plus the wear and tear from years of amateur wrestling, years of international wrestling that due to the Olympics. If it came down to a war of attrition, that's just not a fight he was going to win against Jared Gordon. It didn't really come down to that, but I just liked the advantages that Jared Gordon had going to this one. So great for him. Where can he go now? I mean, he should get Patty after Patty beats Tony Ferguson. Get to run that one back. So there you go, guys. That's the next step for Patty.
Gordon versus the Bobby Green, Dan Hooker loser.
Yeah. Again, that win for Jared Gordon. I know Mark Madson's not like a top 30 guy or whatever, but it sells him so well to the UFC. They gave him this platform. They said, "You're from New York. We want you to show us what you can do. We know you've been with the company for a while, but you still have been missing that signature moment." And there it was. So yeah, you can get that fight.
I mean, BSD for Grant said Dern going up to 125 to fight Lemos, and then Aspinall versus Cody Garbrandt. I didn't vet that one. Well played, sir. Well play. What else we got? How about this? UFC 300. Gordon versus Jim Miller.
I like it, but I feel like for Jim Miller, I mean, he just has to be on the card. I understand it doesn't really matter who he fights. I still want him to fight like another, I don't know, like a bigger name, someone who's almost not as nearly as tenured as he is. Nobody's close right now, but I feel like there should be a bigger name. But if Jared Gordon wants that, he should start to calling for it.
BSD versus the Benny Armin loser. Maybe.
They know they have something with BSD. Depends. If they go to Paris, they'll probably want to give him a big fight. So
yes. Someone said the highlight of the watch party was Parker Porter, and you know what? I'm not here to argue with you because it was
the GOAT.
Yeah, we had to get extra time with him. Actually, I think the highlight of the watch party was me nailing the prediction of the autographed card. So GC had a box of Chronicles. He shook it for me. I was like, all right, I have a pick. And he shook it for me, and I said Arini Aldana. And then I was like, shake it again, and I said Charles Jourdain. We did not get Charles Jourdain, but Arini Aldana got the auto. Out of all the names in the world, I pick Arini Aldana, and he gets an Arini Aldana autograph.
How did you do that? How'd you do that?
It's the second time I've done it. It's the second time I've done it. It's super weird.
That's a little scary.
It's super weird.
Mike, I don't mess with witchcraft, bro.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
You're from Massachusetts. You know about all that Salem shit. Come on, you can't be messing around with that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
That's not good stuff.
Parker Porter is the friggin' man, though. That was super fun. Anytime there's a heavyweight like co-main event, he's gonna be on.
Yes,
he was doing the show with his kids, like who were watching the fights. He's on for Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich, and the children fall asleep. Like they were asleep the whole time, and he was going crazy. Like he was yelling, he was losing his mind, and his kids slept through all of it. That's impressive. That is super impressive. So
thanks, Parker Porter.
Well done. All right, I think we're done here. Let me just pull something up very, very quickly, and then we will discuss what is going to happen next week. I am very excited because the next time that I fly out here, and I may do this before, I'm going to go back and listen to the 2023 prediction show and start taking notes because we got to prepare for the 2024 prediction show, which it's coming real quick. So basically what we're going to say is, and I think I did this last year, and I already have submissions coming in for the show. We are going to do, to kick off 2024, our prediction show. It's basically just buy-sell questions, but like interesting questions. And then we do like sort of a champions predictions at the end of the year. And then we have like a bold take that we have to make out. It's just like super bold and probably won't happen. But if you got like good buy-sell questions that you want answered as far as heading into 2024, send those submissions in like you would submit your matchmaking suggestions. We'll tally them up. I've already collected probably a dozen of them because people send them throughout the year. And there's some doozies already. But just however you submit your matchmaking picks, you can do that here. And we will take matchmaking picks next week. Normal podcast. We won't be live next week. We'll be live again after UFC 296 on December 17th. Because, ladies and gentlemen, and I know you're excited about this based on all of the suggestions and comments, the UFC back at the Apex. They're back at the hallowed Apex. And perhaps, depending on who you ask, and if it's lineage, and maybe I'll have to text Brennan Allen and see what he thinks about this, possibly the middleweight title on the line. a man who won the middleweight title but may not actually qualify for it anymore. Brennan Allen taking on a guy who probably doesn't qualify for this title at all. Paul Craig, Captain Chaos himself. Jake Matthews, Michael Morales on this card. Is this Vegas 82 or 83, AK? Do you know?
I believe it's 82.
82, okay. Jordan Levitt versus Chase Hooper. Peyton Talbot versus Nick Aguirre. Amanda Hebas, Luana Pinheiro, Uros Medic versus Johnny Parsons. Jesus Christ, that fight's going to be nuts. Cesar Almeida versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Nicholas Mota versus Trey Ogden. Lucy Pudilova, Eileen Perez. Mick Parkin versus Caio Machado. I like this Jonathan Pierce, Joe Anderson Brito fight. Shannon Ellinger versus Jose Johnson. Charles Johnson versus Rafael Esteban. And Lucas Alexander versus Jekka Saragi. That's UFC Vegas 82.
It's a card. Mike, we forgot to answer the UFC. We do this real quick.
Oh, yeah.
MSG cards. I'm not going to go the whole list. I'll just say the top 3. It's hard to beat 205, 217, 205, of course, McGregor, Alvarez. Just the magic of the first trip back to the state of New York and the first card in New York City at Madison Square Garden. But I'll go 217 over that. Little Canadian bias, GSP, St. Pierre. GSP comes back. Beats Michael Bisping. The Dillashaw, Garbrandt. This was the first fight, I believe. I won't say this was the first fight. And then, am I crazy? This was the first fight. Yes. And then Rose and Joanna, just amazing stuff. So that to me would be number 1. I'll go 205 next, and then 268. This was a really good card. Usman, Covington 2, Rose and Zhang. Gosh, I don't know why I bring this up. Frankie Edgar getting his face kicked off. And Burgos Quarantillo and Gaethje Chandler, both bangers. So there you go.
Yeah, that is.
Burgos Quarantillo kind of disappointed, I think, right? But I don't know. Gaethje Chandler was a
what? Are you kidding me?
But Burgos Quarantillo was the one with the grappling.
No, that fight was awesome.
Was a banger?
It just happened. They bumped. It was unfortunate for those guys because they bumped Chandler and Gaethje to the first fight of the night because Trevor Whitman had to coach like every fighter in the main card. And so Billy Q and Shane Burgos had to follow Gaethje Chandler. Yeah. And at that point, like we're all the adrenaline rush from Gaethje Chandler is like impossible to like keep up that pace. But just go back and watch that fight. Then you're going to be like, holy shit. Yeah. Like that fight's ridiculous. It was a great fight. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good question. I like that list. This is right up there though.
I wasn't even counting this. Yes, I mean this has to be up there. Yeah. Sorry, I meant the previous events. This probably has a crap at the top.
205 is number 1 though. 205 stuff.
Oh, you go number 1. Yeah, the classic. The original.
I mean that was like the perfect event. Like everything that needed to happen happened, and we got the Khabib coming out party on the freaking prelims. Connor pitches the perfect game. Like everything about that card just hit. The only real disappointing thing is Chris Weidman's like fighting an MSG. He was like the face of all of this in a lot of respects. And he's fighting Yoel Romero, and it looks like he's up 2 rounds, and he gets flying kneed. Oh man. It was just such a crazy moment.
Am I underrating 281? Izzy Pereira 2. Pereira wins the title. Zhang just runs through Carla.
Which
Corey takes out Chandler. Frankie Edgar dying again. I don't know why this kept happening.
Dan Hooker, Claudio Playas.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious. That fight was just funny.
That was just a weird card.
Yeah, that was a good card. Maybe we're underrating. I don't think
in a lot of respects, I think 281 kind of planted seeds for what 2023 was going to become.
Yes, true. For better or worse. 230 probably the worst one, right?
Oh yeah, that was really bad. They cobbled that thing together. 244 was not bad. I mean, the co-main event was terrible. The Gastelum Darren Till fight. We got Masvidal Diaz, which was like, I mean, it was scenes. They had the BMF title and the friggin' Rock's there, and I mean, that was wild. Donald Trump was there as the sitting president at the time, which was pretty insane. So, yeah, a lot of history at MSG.
This card feels like 10 years ago. Kevin Lee knocked out Gillespie with a head kick. Corey Anderson was still in the UFC, runs through Johnny Walker. Ed Mishabazian was still in our. Oh man,
Derek Lewis won a split decision on that card.
Wow,
crazy man,
damn.
Absolutely insane. And we got that was sort of the beginning of the Makwan Amirkhani let's live bet if it gets out of the first round kind of a thing, because Makwan had a good first round against Shane Burgos, and then Shane just kind of annihilated him the rest of the fight. So that was the beginning of the Makwan Amirkhani let's bet on him early. But if the fight gets into round 2, we bet against him in the live odds. But we're done, everybody. Thank you all very much. Back in normal form next week. So after UFC Vegas 82 comes to a close, go ahead and submit your picks. And not a lot of shows left here. We'll do our recap, and then we'll do our predictions for 2024 to wrap up just this wild, chaotic 2023. So it is November already. So thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great week. For AK, I'm Mike Cack. Remember the golden rule. Don't take this stuff too seriously. MMA is supposed to be fun. And we'll have more fun right here. And on to the next one, the podcast.